People don't realize this, but being lonely is underrated. Today we asked the question, but is 500 Days of Summer a good movie?
Welcome back to the second episode of What is a Good Movie, where we go through Ish's library of movies every week, one by one, and we figure out if that week's choice is good, should stay in the collection, or if it's a bad one and should ultimately be tossed out. This week, I'll be taking the lead on this podcast. I'm Nick, and I'm joined by...
Hey, it's me, Ish.
So, for our second movie, we get 500 Days of Summer, a rom-com. Very different than Batman Year One.
Yeah, some people might say it's an anti-rom-com.
Ooh, yes. The movie immediately starts with, this is not your typical love story, or is it a love story at all? But we'll get into that. I do want to just start by saying, if you haven't seen the movie, this is one that I recommend right off the bat. So I personally think that this is probably one of Zooey Deschanel's, like, my personal favorite movies that she's in. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think he's in better movies, but I do like his character in this. I'm not sure how you feel about the choices for who they picked as the leads.
You know, I'm not very familiar with either of them.
Okay.
I know Joseph Gordon-Levitt. During the movie, I made a ton of realizations that, oh, he's in Inception. Oh, he's in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. Along the way, it started to like come back to me a lot more. As far as Zoe or Zooey,
I hate that she spells her name with two O's.
I only really know her, I guess, now from this, New Girl, and Elf.
Okay, yeah.
I know she's in a lot more movies, but not really sure which ones they are.
Okay, that's definitely fair. So, experience with rom-coms. Do you watch them a lot? Do you have a lot in your collection?
I fucking love rom-coms.
I feel like I feel like the term chick flick is like, I don't know, it's like demeaning to like these movies, because it's like, I don't know, I really did enjoy myself with this movie, as I do with a couple others. But I have seen this movie before. I watched it years ago. And so this is kind of like my maybe second or third time seeing the movie. But you said you haven't seen it before.
I've never seen it. I picked this movie out at Goodwill. So I was like looking through the movies and I was like, oh, there's a Blu-ray. So I snagged it. Didn't know anything about it. Didn't bother to read the back of the movie. And I was like, all right, whatever. It's like $2. I'll pick it up.
And so now it just kind of like popped up for like this. And you're like, all right, I guess I'll finally sit down and watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So like going into it, were you kind of like, oh man, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this movie or...
Honestly, didn't have a lot of expectations. I tried not to look it up beforehand or read anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because usually when like you look up this movie, everyone talks about like the ending mainly, like how like they like don't, like, spoiler, they don't stay together.
Yeah, see, I went into that with fresh eyes. Did not expect that because the movie kind of fucks with you in the beginning, right?
Yes.
It opens up on like day 480, and they're on the bench holding hands.
And she has a wedding ring.
So throughout the movie, you're like, okay, eventually they get back together.
Yeah, like in a traditional sense, it's gonna be like the love story. They meet, and then like you see like the progression of their like romance, and there's gonna be a conflict, and then they're gonna get back together. But I like the way the movie handles the pacing or like the timeline of it all, because you start at like in the middle somewhere, like almost like day 100 and something, and then it goes back to the beginning. It kind of like flashes back and forth between like early days of summer and the later days.
Yeah, because I think the opening shot's that on the bench.
Yeah.
And that's day 480.
Yeah. And
or
then like
488 or something.
And like we don't get to see like the first time they meet till like a couple more minutes in.
Yeah, because it cuts back and forth a lot. It goes back because when the movie starts, there's narration going over everything, and he's in his office, kind of looking miserable, and it's talking about like, oh, he's never gonna be happy until he fulfills this weird idea of meeting the one.
Yep.
So we don't really know. We know Zoe's in the movie Summer, but we don't really know when she appears because the movie just keeps going back and forth a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I kind of like a lot. Like she's introduced, but like we kind of get to meet Tom first.
Okay.
And then we get to meet like his like friends. because like how like it kind of like starts before like we get to see their first interaction is like the first time they like things don't go Tom's way. He's like all miserable. He's like breaking plates in the kitchen.
Yeah, like a psycho.
Yeah. And then we meet his sister, which is played by Chloe Grace Moretz, which is every time she's on screen in this movie, she steals the scene immediately. Yeah. I don't know what her character's name was. I totally missed that. But I just kept calling her Chloe.
Her name is Rachel.
Rachel. Okay. So, yeah. So Rachel, definitely by far the best character on screen.
Yeah, I would agree. I think she's the most emotionally intellectual.
Yes. Yeah, she is really young in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't catch her age.
I'm going to say, just by height-wise, I'm going to say she's probably around like 10 to 12 area, just by looking at her.
Yeah, that feels right.
And like Tom is her brother, and it looks like he's probably late 20s, maybe early 30s. He went to school to be an architect, and he is here writing greeting cards for this company. So it sounds like he didn't even try to like go for like architectural like jobs and stuff like that. He kind of like needed money, got this job, stuck with it. He's like one of those like he just got stuck in the job and never pursued elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then we meet Zooey Deschanel's character, Summer. She's the assistant to the boss, and she works at the same place that Tom does.
Yeah.
And the first time we get to see anything of her is Tom's friend says like, "Oh, did you see the new girl?" And like, "Oh, she's hot, but I heard she's a bitch."
Oh yeah.
And then that's our like first introduction of like her on screen.
Summer starts off as like the idea of she's the Pam to Tom's Jim.
Yes.
Right? And she's just staring at her, and then Mackenzie is the friend, right?
Yeah.
So he turns to her and is like, "Oh, I heard she's like a bitch. She's an uppity, better than everyone, super skank."
Yeah, and before Tom can even talk to her, he's like, "Oh, fuck her."
Yeah, like fuck that bitch, right?
Which is like totally like how guys talk about like girls they never even talk to. They're like, "Oh, fuck her."
Yeah.
And then the more they talk to her, like, "Hi, how are you?" Like they like swoon completely over. They like melt on like command. And yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, mainly just because like when I first watched it, God, like nearly 8-9 years ago to now, it's like I'm in a totally different part of my life. I've been in a relationship for like super long, and when I first saw the movie, I think I only started dating like for like a month or two, or like maybe like not even a whole year. So definitely, depending on what kind of like relationships you've been in, this movie does hit different.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. So watching this movie, I would say twice now, maybe.
Yeah, probably twice.
Are you pro Tom? Or are you pro Summer?
So, I am pro Summer.
Okay.
In most movies, like we're given like a hero and a villain, like pretty standard. And like the hero is usually the person that the audience like roots for. We want to see them reach their goal, whatever that might be. If it's to go pull the sword from the stone or go defeat the bad guy, but we're also shown the bad guy's goals. Yeah. In this movie, it's all from the perspective of Tom, because every time the narrator says anything, it's never about like Summer's point of view or what Summer's thinking. It's always what Tom is expecting, what Tom is thinking, what Tom is going through. So the movie is kind of painting this whole thing about like Tom is the hero, and he's trying to turn the villain, Summer, like be like, because his goal is eventually he wants Summer to like him as much as he likes her, and he wants to flip her whole like way she views love. Because we're shown that Tom is a hopeless romantic. He thinks he'll never be happy until he finds the one. And Summer's like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in love at first sight or anything like that. She wants to just do her, be her own person. She doesn't want to be the stereotypical like, oh, this is my boyfriend, and like that's it about her.
Yeah, she says like there's no such thing as love, it's fantasy.
Yeah, which I did like when they're at the bar and they're talking about that. I did like the one quote, "It's love, not Santa Claus."
Yeah,
because like it is kind of like I believe in love, I believe in the one and stuff like that, but it is kind of funny because it's like just like Santa Claus, there might not be any like true concrete evidence of love essentially for like someone like Summer to view You know, just because you say, I love this person, Summer's like, show me the evidence.
Yeah, right?
So I definitely like that whole idea that like she's kind of like not really about it and she just wants to stay friends. But the reason why I am ultimately pro Summer is because she immediately comes out of the floodgates and tells him, I don't want to be in a super serious relationship, you know? Like she wants to stay friends or be casual.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom kind of goes, oh, okay. Like, yeah, he agrees to it because he likes her. He doesn't want to be like, oh, that's not going to work out for me.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be around her still. So even with all of that knowledge going into it, he still is trying to get Summer to initially ultimately like him as much as he likes her.
Yeah, because I feel like Tom in this movie is, like you said, a hopeless romantic.
Mm-hmm.
He's very stereotypical. In the beginning of the movie, the narrator says that he grew up with these ideas from like British pop songs, and he greatly misinterprets The Graduate. So for him, the goal is beat the bad guy, get the girl, live happily ever after.
Yes.
That's his idea of what love is, which is not what Summer's idea of love is at all.
Nope.
So even though Summer says, no, I don't want a relationship, I don't want anything serious, I just want to be me, he kind of takes that as a challenge, I feel.
Yeah, like most times in like these like love movies and stuff like that, there's typically like how you say, like a challenge, a hurdle, you know. Another rom-com I can think of is 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler.
Mm-hmm.
Like essentially like his goal, he's trying to get this girl who can't remember anything the next day to remember him and to fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he's fighting that hurdle. In this case, you almost don't know what the hurdle truly is. Because Summer comes out and says, I'm just not looking for anything like that, you know? But like, because it's all painted in Tom's view, we don't get to ever see like Summer's past or anything, you know? Yeah. Like we hear about the guys she used to like date or like hang out with, but never like from like what she's thinking or like, you know. So I think it's pretty interesting that essentially she comes across as like a bitch or like evil, because after we watched the movie, I was kind of curious. So I Googled some like reviews and like what people thought, and people hate Summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they really don't like her. Like they did a 500 Days of Summer like recap thing, and they brought back Zooey Deschanel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and to kind of like reflect on the movie like years later. And there's so many people who were like, they like, I hated your character to like Zooey, and she's like, why? And then there's so many people who are like, oh, I felt so bad for Tom. And then like he's like, why? Like I don't get it. And I think it's funny because like depending on where you are in life or like what kind of how you view relationships, I could ultimately see people just like taking Tom's side.
I could see that. But you know what? I rewatched this movie right before we started recording. And what I picked up this time around was Tom is a nice guy. He is quote unquote nice guy.
He is one of those like he thinks he is like nice guys think that they deserve the relationship because they put in all this time and effort. They're like, I'm really nice to her and I walk her to her car, or like, you know, we share the same interests, and it might not even be a lot. Like in this movie, they both like the Smiths.
Yeah.
And that might be it. Kinda like there's not a whole lot that they share. They actually do argue over a couple things. Like she likes Ringo Starr, and he thinks that's stupid.
Yeah, because later on there's a scene where they're back at Summer's apartment, and she's finally telling Tom a couple of things that are personal to her.
Yeah, she's like letting that wall down.
Yeah, she's letting that wall down, and I feel like the narrator is kind of hinting at that. Tom feels like he deserves this. Like he's earned this trust from Summer. And he even says something along the lines of, she says, oh, I've never told anybody about this. And he says, oh, I guess I'm not just anybody. So in his mind, he's already won, right?
Yeah.
He's there, he's with her, and he's getting all these like facts that to him relate to a prize. He's worked this hard. So now he's finally being rewarded by this attention from like Summer. Yeah,
because like when like they're laying in bed and she's just like talking, we don't get to hear anything she's saying because the narrator immediately cuts in and he just goes, Tom is realizing that not everyone has heard this, blah, blah, blah. And when I saw that again this time, I was like, oh my God, he's not even listening.
No, he's not.
You know, he's just like, I've done it. Just like you said, he's like, this is the prize. I made it. Like, he thinks he's in. Like, he thinks this is end. You know, we're going to be together. I'm finally at her apartment. We're laying in bed. She's opening up and all this stuff. But what I think is like, I don't know, just like from that like whole exchange is like where you start to see that's where like Tom is painting the whole story as like, you know, like here he's the good guy. And like when Summer ultimately dumps him, he's like heartbroken and he doesn't even see it coming, even though there's like so many signs. And she's flat out told him like, I do not want to be your girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, you can't even say she dumped him. They were never in a relationship to start with, right?
Yeah. Because like, they like have sex, which is a funny like scene afterwards. But like, but they hang out all the time and they like kiss and they talk. They're essentially like, they almost seem like friends with benefits.
Yeah.
But Tom is like, he's like, no, I love her. You know, like he talks about her like being like the reason he gets up in the morning and the reason he'll like not get hit by a car. Yeah. And then ultimately when she just calls it off, like she's like, we need to stop whatever this is. He's just like devastated and he's like falls into like this like pit of despair. He like doesn't show up to work and he just drinks and shit.
Yeah, because she just wants to be friends. Yeah. And from the beginning, from that first night at the bar, she says, you like me as friends. And he's like, yeah, as friends. So I feel like for her, friends with benefits or whatever it ends up being, right? That's different. Like she doesn't relate to him in a way where it will lead to an actual relationship. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because like I can see where people will think Summer is like evil or intentionally being mean to Tom and stuff like that. But like she like I said, she tells him flat out like this is we're not gonna be a thing. We're not gonna get married, you know. But like they just kind of like are like, because I did read that someone was like, oh, Summer uses Tom to have fun. I'm like, I don't know. Like I feel like Summer just could have like had fun by herself anyway. It's just more or less like she just was like, oh, Tom's cool. Yeah. She thinks he's interesting. You know, like they're sitting on the bench for one of the first times and it's like Tom's favorite spot because he likes to architect and stuff. And so she's interested in that. She's like, wait, why does my new friend not pursue his interests? You know, I think anybody who is like friends with someone like, you know, found out, be like, oh, you went to school for this, but you're not doing it. Why? Like you're interested in their life, not because you love them, because you're friends, you know, friends talk and shit. And Tom, I think, views that as like, he's like, oh my God, like no one's ever said that to me. She must be interested in my life because we're going to be compatible.
The first time I saw this movie, right, I feel like I was leaning more towards Tom, and I think that's intentional.
Yes, 100%.
It's his story. He might not be the most reliable narrator because everything is through his perspective. Seeing it a second time, I relate a lot more to Summer, but I think what I've concluded is they're both awful people.
Yeah, like, yeah, is Summer like a good person? In the case of like she I think halfway through she knows Tom really likes her, and she keeps like she'll move her hand away, or she keeps reminding him like, just remember, like I don't want a serious relationship. And I feel like there's a couple times where Tom pulls up red flags and she should have bounced.
Yeah.
And then there's times where, you know, Summer pulled out red flags and Tom should have bounced, but he was too much, like he was too into Summer to like see them.
Yeah, well, Summer hit on him first. She's the one that made the first move while they were in the copy room, right? Friday night, they're at the bar. They end up basically saying, we're just friends. Monday morning pulls up. He's in the copy room. Summer shows up, not saying a word. He's like, oh, hey, Summer. And she's still not saying anything. Awkwardly goes up to Tom and starts making out with him.
But do you remember at the end of the movie where it kind of goes back through the things that Tom said and how they change a little bit? Yeah. It's the expectation versus reality. And that copy room scene pops up, and on the left, it was all the expectations and the right was reality. and then they kiss on the left, and on the right she walks past him.
Did that happen?
Yeah, that's at the end of the movie.
That's at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I completely missed that part.
So like that's where it's like, is Tom telling the truth? Just like when he's playing Wii Sports with his sister, and they're like, just because she likes the weird stuff you do doesn't mean you guys are like gonna be a thing. And then when she's at her soccer practice and they're talking, it goes, when you look back on everything, look back on it again. And I feel like that's the ending part. That's Tom looking back on, because he's finally over Summer at the end, because that counter drops back down to 1.
Yeah.
Which I'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going back through all the different parts, and there's like almost like there's 2 different versions of what's happening. So you could say Summer did, if that is the reality, Summer did kind of skew Tom's perception of their relationship. But I think they never did kiss.
Okay, so you think she just walked past them?
Yeah, at that scene, I think they definitely had a friends with benefits thing later on, but I think in that moment, the early 20 days, I don't think they kissed.
Interesting.
I think their first kind of like form of contact that they had was when they were in IKEA and they held hands.
Okay, I don't remember the expectation. The only time I remember expectations versus reality is when he's at the rooftop party.
Yeah.
But
well, that's when like that frame is set up.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, it's shot in that same way with the boxes. It's just the 2 words at the below are now gone. But
so when I was rewatching it the second time, I kind of stopped watching it at the bench scene, so I didn't get to finish the movie.
Okay.
But what I did get to see is it's after the bar scene where there's a douchebag that starts hitting on Summer and he gets in a fight, and they go back to the apartment.
Yeah.
And they get in an argument about it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just got my ass kicked for you. And she's like, oh yeah, you did that for me? Really? And he's like, yeah, I did. And she says, he's like, we're just what? He's like, we're just friends. And he gets pissed, right? He's like, that's bullshit. Like, friends don't make out with each other in the copy room. Friends don't hold hands in IKEA. Friends don't do shower sex. Yeah. So I think they did make out in the copy room because she acknowledges that in that argument.
But is that argument... But is that how the argument actually went for real? Like we said, is Tom a good narrator?
I don't know.
It is kind of like you could take this as like everything Tom says was a fact, or everything Tom says is like with a pinch of salt, like he's telling his friends, he's telling Paul and Mackenzie about everything, like the hand jobs that might have happened and like all the shower sex, because like when you're talking with the bros, like you definitely want to make it sound like you're having a way better time than they are.
All right. I can see your perspective through that. I don't know, I guess.
I think ultimately, if they did kiss in the copy room, it still doesn't really shatter my view on either of these characters. Like Summer, I think I'm more in favor of.
Okay.
I think Tom is a dickhead.
Yeah, I don't like Tom. I think he's way worse than Summer. I don't think Summer's the best either.
Oh yeah, like Summer isn't inherently like the good person. Like
no.
Like these are real people almost. Like, like I've met a Tom before and I've seen a Tom date a Summer ultimately and like go workplace.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I just think we don't see a lot of the real Tom in this movie until they break up. Well, Summer calls off whatever they're having, because he kind of like, I don't know, he like talks down about her and stuff like that, and you kind of get to see like the real him, almost like all his real emotions essentially.
I feel it's a little hinted at throughout the movie if you're paying a little bit of attention, right? There was a couple scenes where Tom honestly is not the nicest.
Oh yeah.
He makes fun of Summer's love of Ringo.
Yep.
There's a scene where they're sitting at Tom's favorite spot and he's describing the landscape of LA.
Yeah, and she points out, oh, what's that?
And he's like, oh, that's a parking lot. And it's like, oh, there's a parking lot too. And I noticed this time, right? The first time he's like, oh, that's a parking lot, Summer smiles. He continues to say, oh, that's another parking lot. And her smile goes away.
Okay.
So there's a couple of scenes where he just says things that you could see Summer is just not digging. Yeah.
And it's like when they have their first like little random date in IKEA, and they're pretending to be like husband and wife, and they're running around like the
Yeah.
store, and they're being like, "Oh, honey, the sink doesn't work," or "I made you my favorite." Like they're like, it almost looked like the puppy love or like the honeymoon stage in a relationship. Like you're really fond of each other and you want to do stupid shit together. And then he kind of brings her back there later, and he's like, "Honey, our sink's not working," and she's like, "Huh? Oh yeah," and like completely ignores him basically. And I feel like it's almost like that. Like just because it worked at the start doesn't mean it's gonna keep working. It's like when you keep saying the same joke over and over
Yeah.
again. So I feel like that's almost like another point of that. It's like Summer's like not having it anymore.
Here's a thought, right? That scene specifically, because it starts off with Tom saying, "Oh, our sink's not working. This one's not working either," and then it goes back in time to when Summer says that joke, and
Yeah.
Tom thinks it's hysterical, right? And he thinks it's the cutest thing ever. What if it was never that funny?
Yeah.
And this is just, and all things are in the past are the expectations, and then stuff in the future are the reality. So it's almost like instead of just going through time, it's just what it actually was all the time. Was it wasn't that, right? It was never like this like puppy dog love. It was just Tom's interpretation of it, and everything in the future after the breakup. This is all like that coming down.
Oh, okay. I could see that. Like, yeah, like the start was like their honeymoon, and then like Summer's like, "Oh wait, like I don't want this anymore." And another thing I thought was kind of interesting was how people viewed the scene where they have that little fight. So like at the bar, that guy's hitting on Summer, and Summer like defends herself normally. She's like, "No, I don't want you to buy me a drink. You could go sit down," you know, which is a pretty fucking sick way to end that.
Yeah.
You know, imagine going up to someone and be like, "Can I buy you a drink?" And then they just shut you down by saying, "You could go back and sit down."
Yeah.
And then like he says to her, like, "Is this your boyfriend? I can't believe that guy's your boyfriend." In which Tom is like, "I am her boyfriend." And he stands up for her for no reason and punches the guy, and then he gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And when we go back to Summer's apartment, she's obviously like, "Look, we'll talk about it in the morning," but she's like, basically like, "Why'd you do that? You're an idiot." And she's like, "I did it for you." And then he leaves, and then she comes to his apartment, and she says, "I'm sorry," and stuff like that. So that's another one of those instances where everyone's like, "Fuck Summer." Like she like skewed the view and stuff like that. Personally, what I think happened was there's a scene where he's laying in bed and he grabs the phone and he's about to call her, and then he doesn't. I think he did call her.
Okay.
I think he called her and she didn't pick up or whatever, and then she came over. One of those things. I think like he initiated for that to come over, because I do think Summer is, you know, she's not the best person, but I think she does feel bad.
I think she feels bad too.
So I feel like that's why she went over. I don't think she went over to basically be like, "Hey, let's have sex," you know. I think she's more like, "I gotta go check on him," you know. He may or may not have left her a message and stuff like that.
So I guess that goes back into like Tom's a nice guy, kind of manipulating Summer a little bit. But Summer still leads him on throughout the whole movie, because she could end it, right?
Yeah,
She could end it at any point.
yeah, and I guess like yeah, that is the part where it's like Summer isn't like the best person, because like yeah, like how I said before, there are things that Tom does and that Tom says, true or not true, that Summer should have just been like, "Look, Tom, stop." Like we have to stop this earlier. But I think it's one of those things that's like she moved in to Seattle, right? Or LA. Oh, that's LA. And I feel like she's new there, and so she just kind of wanted a friend kind of thing. And you know, things happen. She like gets a different job or she quits, but we don't get to see that. Could we just like skip to like a certain number, and then he looks over at her desk and there's a new person there.
Yeah.
So we're like, "Oh no, what happened to Summer?" You know, and Tom's mulling over it. Like he's in like his first dip in the 500 Days of Summer. And that's when he like starts to show like the real Tom, or like you can't make everything like happy, you know.
I will say, since I didn't read anything about this or watch the movie or really like heard of 500 Days of Summer, I was very surprised that her name was Summer. And I was like, oh my God, that's her.
I thought that was so funny. Cause I look over, I'm like, oh my God, out of like the little bit you like might have known about the movie, I had no idea it was Summer.
I didn't know that was her name. No, I was like, fuck, this is really long Summer.
Yeah. So the whole 500 on the 500 Days of Summer is the 500 days of where Tom is hung up on her. Mm-hmm. From the initial meet of like, this is my assistant Summer, and he's gawking at her, to finally the last day where he finally goes for that interview at the architectural place, and he meets a new girl who is kind of like a little like out there, like maybe not like Summer, but like a girl that kind of like also brings up something that he likes. Because the first time that Summer and Tom officially talk is in the elevator, where he's listening to music and she goes, I love that band. And then he's like starstruck by her. And then the first time he sees this girl, she talks about, I think I've seen you before at Tom's favorite spot.
Yeah.
And then Tom just goes, do you want to go for a coffee? Because they're both going for the same interview, which I thought was funny. And then finds out her name is Autumn. And then that counter from 500 drops back to 1.
Yeah, which I hated.
Because you know that, all right, when something happens in your life and it doesn't go your way, most people, I feel, should reflect on what has happened in their life, you know? Here, Summer ends their friendship, their fling, whatever you want to call it, and Tom views her as a villain. And ultimately, he finds out that she goes off, she gets married, which is wild for her standards, and he just doesn't get it. But this whole time of where, like, she moved on, Tom should now move on himself and reflect on everything that he's done, you know, all the red flags that he might have missed and stuff. But he doesn't take that time to realize any of that because he jumps right into, I don't know how many days of autumn now, you know? It could be another 500 days. It could be like 600 days of whatever, you know?
Yeah, which kind of hints that Tom, I feel like all his relationships are like this. Because earlier in the movie, when he's breaking plates back at his apartment, his friend Paul says, oh no, it's like Amanda Heller all over again.
Yeah.
So this already shows that this is history, right?
Yeah.
Tom goes through these like really serious relationships, or I guess in his eyes, he gets infatuated with someone, and then ultimately ends in heartbreak.
Yeah.
And he just is a miserable piece of shit for like a month or two.
Yeah, because when we see Tom at the greeting card place, he looks miserable sitting there at the conference table as they're all talking, and then he sees Summer. He's like, oh my God. And then after they break up, they stop seeing each other, then he's back at the board meeting or whatever you want to call it. It's the same way. He's pissed. He's like all like cranky and stuff like that. It's just now this time he just like takes it a step further and starts saying like greeting cards are bullshit. The pop music is bullshit, which we all realize in the beginning of the movie is what skewed his perception of relationships and why he thinks this way.
So he just never learns.
No, he'll never learn. And like, I don't know what term that is. I feel like there's a term out there for whatever that might be. But yeah, I feel like he's a character that will never learn from his past. He'll be static. He'll be static forever.
Yeah, and he just gives, after he meets Autumn, he might as well just fucking wink at the camera and say, here we go again.
Yeah.
Because he turns, looks at the camera, and smirks.
Yeah.
And then it goes, day one of Autumn, right?
Yeah.
And I fucking hate that so much. Because there's another movie that did this plot way better, which is La La Land.
Yeah.
La La Land has a similar storyline, but the characters are a little bit, like, I feel like they're better. Their chemistry is a little bit better, and their relationship makes more sense.
But see, that's almost where, like, La La Land is different than 500, because La La Land, you almost get both perspectives of those characters.
Yeah.
500 Days of Summer, you mainly just get Tom.
Exactly.
Which is why, like, I don't know. I think La La Land I like more just because, like, the music and shit like that. But 500 Days of Summer does a good job doing what it's doing. Here it's not just like beginning a relationship, middle to end. It does like that flip flop, and here it makes you think afterwards. Like, was Tom being truthful? Is Summer a bitch? Who's the villain? Shit like that. La La Land, I just know, who's who. It's just like I definitely agree with you. La La Land is like, I point at it and I go, I would watch that movie again. If I were to do this summer, I'd watch it again. Not anytime soon.
Yeah, maybe in 10 years.
Maybe in 10 more years. Because it is funny because like watching it, and I was barely in a relationship to now where I'm like going to get married. It does hit different.
It does, right?
And like 10 more years from now, or like maybe when I have kids, I'd be like, oh, you should watch this movie. Maybe they'll be like, Dad, that was a stupid movie, But like La La Land, I'll be like, any relationship, if you're in one or not, this is a good movie, So I definitely think I could see, I don't know, because like I feel like I liked the movie 10 years ago or whenever I watched it. Now I like it more.
Okay.
But it's not just because like I'm in a relationship. It's just like I'm an adult. I feel like as a teenager, wasn't really a good choice for a movie.
Yeah.
I was like, rom-com, gross. But I did not remember this movie being as funny as it was.
It's hilarious.
Like the immediate start of the movie starts with just like, it's like a little like it's a little footnote from like the director. Yeah. It was just like, this is a work of fiction. It's not based on anyone, especially not you. And he calls a girl out.
He's like, especially you, Jenny Beckham. And you're like, bitch.
Yeah. Which I looked up. So the director based his really long relationship off of with this girl 400 or 500 Days of Summer. And there was an interview with the director and stuff like that. And he's kind of Tom. Like,
is he?
Yeah, like he is kind of like cynic towards this girl, Here he believed in something that they had. She didn't, I guess. And now he made this movie, which is kind of funny. Like, he is Tom, which maybe that's why like it's all about him.
Okay.
He doesn't really care about what Summer wants, which is the whole, I don't want a real relationship, I'm just looking to be friends kind of thing in the moment.
Yeah, well, Mark Webb directed it, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, he made Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
I know he was a music video director before this.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool scenes in this movie that I thought was like interesting, where like we take a pause of like, I don't know, like the actual movie, and we get like these little like, this is how the character feels, and it's like done in this like little scene, which I thought was pretty cool. I like those little artsy moments.
Yeah. So I know one thing that people really love about this movie is the soundtrack. What was your opinion on that?
I like the soundtrack. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. I do like when movies, call me like simple-minded. I do like when movies kind of, the music that gets played kind of portrays what's going on a little bit. Okay. I do like that. Just because the song fits to me isn't really all that good. Comes like, now this song has given the scene more emotion, So like, I do like that.
See, I don't know if I picked up on this, but was there a Ringo Starr song in this movie or no?
Oh man, that's a good thing we should Google. I did not pick up. See, I'm not a big Ringo Starr fan.
Me either.
I like listen probably like I like the Beatles a little bit, but like I don't know, nothing, not a lot to like pick up on anything.
Yeah, I feel most of the music fit really well, almost to the point where I didn't notice it really. Yeah. Because it fit the scenes pretty well. The only one that stood out to me was a Sweet Disposition.
Yeah.
When they're like touring, because that song is overplayed in a lot of movies.
Yeah, they play that song twice.
Oh, I didn't. I only picked up the part where they're walking downtown and looking at the architecture.
They played again like after they like stop seeing each other for a little while. Tom goes to a wedding of a work friend, and he meets Summer there, and they go to the wedding together essentially. And when I believe it's the scene when they're on the train together, I think it plays there again, or it plays when he sees her at the wedding. It's one of those two parts, but I do know it plays twice because I was like, why is this song playing again? But it's not like even like where it stopped in the beginning. It's just the same part, which I thought was just kind of like, all right.
That wedding scene, I feel like it's one of the main reasons I didn't like Summer. Okay. Because I get it. She could do whatever the fuck she wants, right?
Yeah.
But I don't like how, and this could just be because it's through Tom's perspective, but to me it kind of looks like she's flirting with him a little bit on the train, and then they get coffee together, and then they're, I would say they're full on flirting at the wedding, and they're like talking about like, oh, you snore. It's like, no, you snore more. And it's like, oh, and they're like and then they dance, and Tom brings this up later again, right? She was already with someone at that point. She didn't say anything.
And she's like, and then like, yeah, Tom's like, and you dance with me. And she goes, well, he didn't ask me yet, you know, which is like, you know, I get it. But it's not like they did anything like, in my opinion, crazy.
No, but to him, it was
enough to kind of like get this idea that Summer likes him back, or we can try again kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a chance, right? It was an opening.
But on that train, you don't really hear them talk.
No.
Because the music's playing. And so we don't get to hear what they're saying. To me, I feel like people kind of misinterpret flirting. Okay. Tom really likes her. So if she just says hi to him, he's like, she's into me. Like, you know, he has that guy mentality. Like, yeah, women love me, you know. Right. So I feel like because he was still hung up on her, that she could have been like anything. She could have accidentally bumped him at the wedding. And he'd be like, she did that on purpose. She tried to get my attention kind of thing.
Which is why I think Summer should just be straight up and be like, hey, like, this isn't going anywhere.
Well, she called it off. And then they meet up again. It's not like she says to him, like, let's try again or whatever.
No, I know. But
I feel like that is just Tom trying to skew his views, or he's making it seem like we're going to get back together. And like Summer, in my opinion, didn't do anything to make it seem like that. Like here, she's just being friendly because it looks like they're being friends after the fact that they've broken up, which is a very tough thing for people to do. Because like you never really see that, like when people date for so long and they break up and then you see them being friends again, because everyone's going to look at them and go, they're going to get back together. And that's what Tom thinks.
Yeah. See, I agree with all of that. And if it would have just stayed like that, fine. But she invites him to a party at her house or her apartment. And, okay, whatever, it's friendly. But that's kind of fucked up because it's basically an engagement party.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell him that she was with someone. And he has to find this out while he's already kind of drunk. He looks over and she's showing off her ring.
Yeah. I know. I'm not really sure if it's an engagement party.
It might as well be because everyone's talking about it.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. I feel like that's also like a thing that like he probably would have found that out way faster in the night if he wasn't so fixated on like the expectations versus reality part. Because like he was talking with people, she introduced him to people. It was gonna bound to come up like Summer is, you know, married. Can you believe that? Or Summer's going to get married.
Yeah, but like, why bring him, right? If you guys are already past it, there's no more room.
Well, romantic. Like that's why I feel like they're just friends, and I feel like that's how she views him now, because that's all she really wanted out of Tom was to be a friend.
Yeah, but they were more than friends, right?
But then she calls it off.
Yeah, but you can't. I feel if I was in Tom's situation, right, and I'm over this girl now after months of heartbreak.
But he's not over.
I know, but he kind of was getting there. He was looking better. He was going out. He was going to a wedding. She comes into his life. Not her fault, right? She's just going to the same party. And if the whole wedding thing, right, if she would have just said at one point, hey, just to let you know, I'm seeing someone. Because that's what friends do. Yeah. You let them know, oh, I'm seeing someone. Seems like it's getting kind of serious if next week or that Friday she's engaged, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, just shoot an email or shoot a text or give a call and just say, hey, just to let you know, I'm engaged now.
Yeah. See, that might have all like, honestly, I guess it is kind of hard to like defend that. I definitely agree. But before that, they don't talk for like a while. Because she writes him, she says, oh, I wrote you and I never got back.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, he could have found out, you know. But I all right, now that you point that out, okay. But I don't know. I feel like it's still Tom just thinking, I'm the nice
Tom.
guy, like, yeah, I guess I could see a little bit like that time. Like she might lead him on a little bit.
Because Tom's an ass. But throughout the movie, every time he's getting back into the swing of things, Summer shows up and derails him. And sometimes it's on accident, sometimes it's on purpose. Mm-hmm. Where Summer will do something, say something. Even at the end, when she's like talking to Tom on the bench, it's still like, what are you doing, Summer? You could have just left. You didn't have to approach him and be like, oh, hey, and then show off the ring. And he's like, congratulations, like, only if you really mean it.
Yeah.
Like, just don't say anything. You guys are done. You haven't talked for over, like, 2 months or something.
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things, like, she might not have approached him if, like, he didn't, like, look as good as he did. Because, like, it seemed like he kind of stopped going to his favorite spot because he was so focused on it. Like, all right, I gotta clean myself up. I'm gonna go get that job or whatever. And maybe because like she said that she's been going to his like the favorite spot for a while, and maybe she noticed that he hasn't been around in a while.
Yeah.
So maybe it's finally one of those times like she was there and oh shit, Tom's there finally. I gotta see what's up. I do think Summer takes a little bit interest in Tom's life as a well-being, friend to a friend, but now it's more or less like an acquaintance kind of thing.
Yeah, and then Tom says, I really hope you're good, or I really hope you're happy.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that could just be sweet, like, oh, I hope you're doing good and you're happy. It also could just be like, I hope you're happy with this decision, and it's not going to be like me, right? You're going to wake up one day and realize you made a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, because she does talk about that. Like, she's like, oh my God, Tom was right. Mm-hmm. And he's like, about what? He's like, about everything, about like finding the one and true love and stuff like that. And then she looks at him and just goes, but you just weren't right about me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was something that she needed to tell him so he could finally like stop being in the 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why that's why she approaches him.
Yeah.
Because, like, if she just left it, maybe she feels guilty. Mm-hmm. Maybe she did feel like she let him on or whatever have you. And I feel like she kind of needed that. Like, she needed that to help him also gain closure, Because spending, like, time with someone for so long, like, intimate or not, when you just stop talking to that person, you're going to see them again and you're going to think about all the stuff you did, like how you said how he gets derailed and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the last bench scene is like, this may be the last time you're going to see me because I feel like if you see me again, this is going to fuck you up, Like, so I think that's why it's like I hope you're good. I hope you're happy with what you did.
Yeah, I do like how their perspectives kind of swap, right?
Yeah, like he's a hopeless romantic and she's a cynic on love. Mm-hmm. And then when they're sitting on the bench, she's like, holy fuck, I now understand what Tom was talking about. And then now she's like, I believe in the one and true love. And then he's like, fucking bitch. Like,
yeah, it's like, I wasn't the one.
Yeah.
Which she, like, Tom's sister, when they're, like, she's playing soccer, she kind of says that, right? She's like, I don't think she's the one.
Yeah.
Like, she's not for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, oh God, his sister is like basically like what the audience is trying to tell Tom. Mm-hmm. It's like, stop. Yeah, stop like, trying to be with her.
She's also like, stop, don't be a pussy.
Yeah, grow up already.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Which is like, I like that a 12-year-old had more love advice that Tom would listen to. Because that is also another thing that I've seen is like when family or like really close people tell you like not to disagree with you, but they tell you something that you might not want to hear, it does stick way better. Because like usually like what happens is like after like Summer and him break up, he's like he goes through everything that he liked about Summer and then he warps it. Instead of saying like, oh, I like her beautiful smile, oh no, I hate her crooked teeth, that's what guys do to like comfort a friend, like, oh, she was a bitch, she was ugly anyway. I'm not sure if girls do that, but all the guys I've ever met that have broken up, every other guy in the room is like, fuck her.
Yeah, he also just takes things like to the extreme right away.
Yes.
Because they're not even dating at one point of the movie. I think it's like day 10 or something. And he's like, it's over. Like me and Summer are done. And his friends they say, oh, was it ever started? And he's like, no, but it doesn't matter anymore. And it cuts to a flashback of them in the elevator. And he says, how was your weekend? And she was like, it was good.
Yeah, and like, and then he goes, and then he interprets that good as like, oh man, she had sex with a guy that she met at the gym or something. All weekend.
Wait.
And then his friends make fun of him for that. And they're like, oh, did she say hi or hey? Because she said, hey, she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
Like, and then like he's looking at them like, fuck you. Like, but yeah, like, no, he definitely like interprets everything as like to either go for him or completely go against him.
So who do you think Summer ended up with at the end of the movie?
I don't know. Like, because she does say it was like a random guy who just kind of came up to her. So I feel like it's just someone that like we have never seen in the movie.
Okay. I thought maybe it would be someone she met at the movie because I noticed this time around rewatching it 3 different times it gets brought up that, oh, she's gonna like fuck some guy that she met at the gym. And I don't know why that specific phrase is used so often.
Okay. It could have been hinting maybe.
Yeah, I was like, maybe she met someone at the gym like the whole time.
Yeah, like if you scan through the movie, there'll be like a dude bro with like a gym bag and like, that's him.
Yeah. It's like Lars from Norway who has Brad Pitt's face and Jesus' abs.
That was a great line. But I think ultimately my favorite character, definitely Tom's sister.
Tom's sister?
Rachel. Chloe Grace Moretz.
Okay.
Because she had a role in the movie.
She did have a role in the movie.
Because Tom is like the self-centered hero, quotes around that, and Summer is this perceived cynic villain, quotes around all of that, And I guess either how you take it, but they both served a role. They're both kind of human-like characters. But it was funny because Rachel's whole part, every time she's into the movie, it's just to help Tom out.
It is, yeah.
It's another reason to show that Tom isn't that great of a person. Like, there's not a single scene where it's like, oh, you gotta go pick your sister up from like soccer or whatever. He's only there because he's like, I need help. So I think, and like her role was essentially like to basically walk Tom off of the cliff, like, okay, come on, take a step back, don't be a pussy. And she gives all the best dating advice that a late 20-year-old in Tom's position could ask for. Yeah. Which is basically someone who he does have like a good relationship with. Just tell him, like, stop doing this to yourself.
Rachel was a good character.
Yeah.
The one I wish there was more Mackenzie. I don't know why. I like his face.
I'm into his face. I think I think his 2 friends, Paul and Mackenzie, they serve the role of like the buddies, that you would always go back to and stuff like that. Paul is the more realistic one, and then Mackenzie is more like that friend that you turn to because he's gonna say what you want to hear. Yeah. Because like just like when like he didn't even talk to Summer yet, and he's telling her like, oh, she's a bitch. She won't even talk to this one guy in the copy room, and then that's when like he's like, yeah, fuck her,
Yeah. Yeah, because Paul's the one that has been in a relationship since 97. So what, the movie came out in 2009, over 12 years.
Yeah, he says I met her in elementary school.
Yeah.
And he has probably like one of like the better lines of the movie. Is just like, she's not my dream girl, but she's better than my dream girl because she's real. Yeah. And when they're doing that segment where they're interviewing them, obviously you don't see who's behind the camera or whatever. And when it finally gets back to Tom, he has nothing to say. And I feel like that was kind of like one of those moments where it's like, God damn it, like you're not listening, like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who do you think's interviewing them? Because it's not a work thing, because Paul's there. Paul doesn't work at the greeting card place.
He doesn't.
But then they interview Mackenzie, they interview Tom, and then they interview his boss, his Vance, or something.
Yeah. Personally, I feel like it's one of those things that's like, this is what Tom is hearing from his friends and stuff like that, because like why else would Paul just randomly say like, oh, this is who I've been dating, this is who I think is my dream girl, and then for Mackenzie to kind of also have the similar question.
Yeah, I felt the first time I saw that I was like, okay, cool, and then this time around I was thinking, where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, I feel
Who
like all
filmed
those
this?
I feel like all those little artsy things
Uh-huh.
are like, I'm like, I don't know if it's 8mm film. That's all I thought about with the little box. But I feel like every time it goes that, this is just kind of like Tom's feelings and stuff. There's that scene where he's like in like the like Crusaders chainmail and he's playing chess with that kid on the beach.
Mhm.
And it's like almost like a movie, like here he thinks he is like the hero and then he loses. And it's funny that's chess because I heard a lot of people actually call love chess. You
Oh,
know,
do they?
yeah, I heard that a couple of times. I believe I heard that mainly from family, mainly people who didn't have like real relationships, but they always said like you gotta plan out your move. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then he loses to like a kid, and then here the kid who gives him the best advice is his sister. So I thought that was like a little interesting, little like tie-in.
Okay, so we talked about your favorite character. Do you have a favorite scene from the movie?
I'd say I do like when they're running around IKEA. I think that's like really cute.
That was super cute.
But I like when I like the scene after he has sex with Summer for the first time, and he like before this like his hair is kind of like a little bit in his like forehead and his like shirt's untucked or whatever. He kind of dresses like casual or like quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he like has sex and he wakes up and he hits his alarm, he's like smiling. His like skin looks brighter. He like does his hair. He looks amazing. And then we get the music video.
Yeah, the music video part of it.
Where like everyone like he passes, they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And they high five and they carry him to work. It's like a parade. I thought it was really funny.
That scene, right? Where he like leaves his apartment. People like all the dudes are giving him the nod. They're like,
Yeah, like,
yeah,
hell
you
yeah.
just fucked. Girls are like, He might as well just be fucking giving finger guns out, being Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3.
Oh my god.
Because he does like a similar move where he's just like dancing out in the park. What they should have done, if this song would have been made at the time, they might as well just played "I Just Had Sex" by the Lonely Island.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, because honestly, I feel like if you just cut the music out and put that song in there,
Makes sense.
It would have just fit.
Oh yeah, it would have fit so much better. I think another scene that I really enjoyed was the scene where he quits his job.
Yeah.
And he's just going on about how like all they're doing is spreading lies and people just like giving people a way out because they're not able to say what they really feel because they're writing what they should say, right?
Yeah, he says like the greeting cards give people a way out.
Yeah, and all that he's doing is just like spreading bullshit.
Yeah, and it is kind of funny that he says that because there is that part where he is in the honeymoon stage with Summer. And it's like a montage. He's at work and he's like really good at writing greeting cards because he's in love, He's like, they're like all these girls are like sitting around these flowers and they're like, oh, we don't know what to do for like this card. And he's like, I love us. Yeah. And everyone's like, that's so good. It's because like that's what he's really feeling. So it is kind of funny that he's like, yeah, we're giving people all these like ways out and stuff like that. But in the moment, it's like, that is how we felt.
I have a question for you, Nick.
Okay.
All right. So, how many more ways can you say congrats other than good job?
I'm proud of you, son.
I'm always proud of you, but today you get a card.
That was really good. Oh, fuck.
I was thinking about that when I was trying to write some questions. I was like, how many other ways can you say congrats, right?
Oh, my God. Yeah. Yeah. What are like the two he has? He has like well done.
Yeah, he's like, good job, well done or something.
Yeah. And he goes, that's it.
Oh, he says, good job, well done, way to go. Okay. Tom's like, every day you make me proud, but today you get a card.
That is probably a really good line in that movie, though, I have to say.
And I like how he's killing it, right? But after Summer and him break up, he gets put on funerals and like
and like sympathy. And like he's just like, oh, you're gonna crush it, just like you did before.
Yeah,
like,
it's like misery, sadness, loss of faith, no reason to live. It's perfect for you.
yeah. So like, yeah, his boss calls him and goes like, is there anything that has happened to you? Like someone took ill, someone died. He goes, no. But he knows he dated Summer, and he's like the whole office knows. So instead of being like, hey, I'm here for you, whatever, he goes, I'm gonna move you to this department so that you could like channel all that and put it on a card.
Yeah. Any other things that you wanted to point out about the movie?
Okay, so got a question for you.
All right.
So the movie in the box office, how much do you think it made?
How much did it make?
Yeah, how much do you think it made?
Do you know how much it cost to make?
So it costs $7.5 million.
To make?
Yeah, that's the budget.
All right, so if it costs $7.5 million, I'm gonna say they made like $25 million.
Okay, so before I tell you the answer, do you think the budget of that 7.5 million, do you think that was too much, too little?
I think that's about right.
About right?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of like, I don't know, I guess ways that the movie would make more. It only takes place in a couple of different locations.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of big like set designs and stuff like that, which I think, I was surprised by the budget, actually. I thought it was going to be less than that.
Oh, okay.
But the box office, it made $60 million.
Ooh, I was way off.
Yeah. So do you think that is too high for this kind of movie? Are you surprised?
I'm surprised. Just because I didn't know anyone that actually went to go watch this movie in the movie theater.
Okay.
Every time I talked to people, it was always they rented it, or later on when it came out on DVD or something, that's when they watched it.
Yeah.
But when it came out in movie theaters, it kind of just passed me by.
Yeah. Do you want to know what always got me was the cover of the movie, like the 500 being in like quote, like.
Yeah.
I thought that was. I was always like, wow, why is it like that? Like I remember not even being like that big into movies, and I was always like confused by that. Because like certain times, like I know like numbers will come first if you do alphabetical order.
Yeah.
But like, if you like categorize again, special symbols pop up first. So like I always seen that movie come up first constantly. And I'm like, why does this movie keep popping up?
Maybe it was intentional.
Yeah. But yeah, so another thing I wanted to actually ask you is, for rom-coms, do you think they're dying? Because
do I think rom-coms are dying? I don't think they're dying. I think they're evolving.
Okay.
Because most movies nowadays have some kind of romantic plot line.
Yeah, like if the main movie's not about love, there's going to be a subplot of two characters. Love, yeah.
But then again, I feel like movies have always had a love subplot, right? But I think movies nowadays are just steering more towards romantic dramas.
Okay, I can see that.
In a way, instead of romantic comedies.
Yeah. Because,
like we were saying, comedies or other movies have subplots of romantic stuff in it. I don't know. I guess the most recent rom-com that I can think of is a movie called Lovebirds. I know you've seen that.
I have not seen that.
It's about this couple. I think they're married, but they're about to get divorced. But shit happens where I think they get kidnapped, and it's like a whole like crime movie basically. Yeah. But they end up like falling in love with each other again. So I think they're just evolving a little bit more.
Yeah. So I just typed like rom-coms into Google, and there was like some movies that popped up, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't think that was like a rom-com actually though, because I felt it was just like the whole plot didn't revolve around love, just like a subplot, but the movie was funny. So like I feel like that's where it's like rom-coms are just kind of like almost like changing coats. It's like, oh well, like how we said, like the romantic plot is gonna be in almost any movie anymore, which is kind of dumb. Yeah. Kind of lazy. But at the same time, it's just kind of like run of the mill, like what can you get someone to like kind of like, oh, I agree with that, or like they see themselves in that character and stuff like that.
I have a question for you, Nick. So, in the beginning of the movie, we hear from the narrator how Tom misinterprets The Graduate.
Yes.
He doesn't realize what the true ending of it is. And then later on in this movie, we see that Summer and Tom go to the movies. And they see The Graduate. And she starts crying. And he doesn't know why she's crying.
Yeah.
What do you think, since you've never seen The Graduate?
So, not seeing The Graduate, and like before you like told me the whole point of that. So like the scene is, it looks like it's a bride and some dude. They get on a bus and they're looking back and they're giggling, they're laughing and stuff like that. And then they like stop looking back and each other like forward, and then they kind of get like deadpan. They get like serious, and then they kind of like almost drop that whole thing, you know, like they look sad.
Yeah.
Well, at least the girl kind of looks a little sad. The guy kind of looks like a little like confused. So the first time I saw that, I really didn't know the context of the movie, but when I saw Summer like this in there crying and stuff like that, I was like, okay, well, maybe this relationship on this movie didn't work out, and that's how like she's feeling. So I thought maybe it was just one of those like, oh, that movie really hit me in the feels, you know. That's exactly how I was feeling. You know, sometimes you just kind of see a movie or listen to a song, you know, and it paints the perfect emotion for you. So I kind of thought it was just that. After getting the whole story, it does hit even deeper, you know. It's not just hitting the right emotion. It's hitting what Zoe's character doesn't want. She doesn't want to just spend her life with someone that she may not be really in love with.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's why she tells Tom that I just want to be friends.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's sad that she thinks that she's never gonna find the one, and that this whole ending scene of The Graduate is like how it's gonna feel from now on.
See, I agree with you, because in the beginning we learn that Tom misinterprets it, and like how we discussed, he's kind of an ass, hopeless romantic. So I think for him, when he saw that movie, that was it, right? That was the goal, right? That guy in the movie accomplished everything. He got the girl, and like they're gonna live happily ever after. Versus, I think Summer's perspective of the movie is, did they make a mistake? Like, is this where like what they want? Are they just gonna live in like a dead relationship that's not gonna go anywhere?
Yeah, and I feel like that is definitely like ultimately like the ending of like how she views, like, well, like when she first comes on screen and talks about love and stuff like that, that is almost like the ending of how she feels. You know, she's like, why bother, essentially, you know, when she could just go off and do herself and be much happier.
Yeah. Do you think that was the turning point in the movie where Summer was like, I gotta get out of this?
I think the turning point was 100% that bar scene where Tom gets in that fight for no reason.
You think that was the turning
I think
point?
that was the biggest turning point, because that was their biggest fight that we've got to see.
Okay.
Because when he talks to his sister, like when Tom talks to Rachel, he says like something about fighting or whatever. Like, oh, aren't you guys like fighting or whatever? You guys don't have like little arguments and stuff. We rarely get to see that.
Yeah.
The only thing that we really get to see them disagree on is like she likes Ringo Starr and he thinks that's silly.
Yeah. Yeah, because when they're eating pancakes right after that, the movie scene, she says, all we do is argue. And he's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, and he gets loud really quick, which I think is like a thing that we don't get to see because it's Tom telling the story.
Yeah, we don't see really any of the arguments or any of like the bad things that are obviously happening, because she does not look happy.
No, yeah, because when we finally get to these like I think it's late 200 days or whatever, she's like 100% like not about it anymore.
Yeah.
And he's trying everything in his power to make it, you know. But the reason why I think that bar scene is the turning point for their relationship is because he's talking about like, can you believe that girl over there? Like, I hate the way like she dresses, or like the way women dress nowadays. Big sunglasses, tattoos, and then she kind of says, well, that's kind of however anyone wants to dress. Yeah. And then he kind of goes like, but I like how you dress. And then she goes like, I want a tattoo. And he goes, no.
Yeah, he's like, no.
So like there's a lot of points right there in just that one little conversation that where it's just like I could tell she's like not about it anymore. And then she's like, all right, he's annoying. Because it's just like here he's commenting on how women dress and how they like bring themselves out, like they show their tattoos, or they just have these big goofy sunglasses, and he hates all that.
Yeah.
And he's very vocal about it. So we don't know other things that he's also been like, oh, I hate when they drive trucks too, or like and like she just looks kind of like miserable sitting there at the bar. And then when he gets in that fight for no reason, now I get it, you want to defend your girl, your relationship, but it's just like Summer took care of it. And then he gets in the fight for no reason. And then when they go back to the apartment and she's like, oh, yeah, you did that for me? And you go, yeah, I did that for you. And then it's almost like no, you didn't. You did that for yourself.
Yeah, because Summer must have had to deal with this growing up her entire life, right?
Yeah.
So there really was no reason for Tom to step in. It was just being selfish.
Yeah.
Because that guy called him out and he's like, this is your boyfriend? He's like, I am the boyfriend.
Yeah. And then like, but before all that, he's never been like the boyfriend, like it's never been like the label. They keep talking about like putting a label on it and stuff. And they never labeled each other as boyfriend and girlfriend. But now this random person did. And he like almost has to like defend that.
Yeah, which is just dumb.
Yeah, it is. So now that we pretty much talked about, I'd say like the whole movie.
I think we went through the movie pretty well.
So for a romantic comedy, because that is what this movie is marketed as, what do you think they did good and what do you think they did bad?
What they did good. Ooh.
So like to fit the genre. So like immediately they kind of go like, this isn't your typical love story. They try to paint themselves as this is not a romantic comedy, but it is,
Yeah.
Granted, it's not the ending that most of them have. Like the girl doesn't stay with the guy that we see, But what I think it did good was it gave us so much to think about when it comes to like the one, love at first sight, stuff like that. Because usually how it goes is the guy fights for the girl and then the girl just ultimately falls in love with him, or like the idea of him at least. And then we never really get to see like the happily ever after part, like here they kiss at the end or whatever, but we never get to see the ending part. And we kind of get to see a little bit of that with Summer, because Summer gets married. And then we see her like kind of meet back up with Tom. And here she's happily ever after and Tom's not. So I feel like that's like a cool little that's like a new way to show like an ending instead of just like sometimes not everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something that they did good. And I think the comedy was really funny. For a movie that's over 10 years old now, I thought it was really funny.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And it's funny because I always think, like, as time ages, jokes get, like, less and less funny. Because, like, the more they sit, funnier things happen. Or, like, humor kind of evolves. Or maybe, like, it's only funny because it was in 2009. And then, like, 2022, it's, like, not funny anymore. But I generally thought the movie was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was super funny. I think there were a couple jokes that didn't age that well.
Yeah, there were a couple parts I was like, oh boy. Like I think the narrator, I don't think this part was a joke, but I think the narrator was like, there's only two types of people in this world, men and women.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, you definitely can't say that anymore, especially in a movie. You're going to get so many people.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And we could get back into some trivia.
Ooh.
All right. Welcome back to 500 Days of Trivia. So this time Nick's going to take the charge and give me some trivia since this is my first time seeing the movie and he has some experience with it.
Okay, Ish. True or false? Is this the debut film from Mark Webb?
True, I think, because earlier we did say he did music videos.
Yes, this is his first movie. And honestly, for a first movie, really if we really did good,
not bad.
for grossing 60 million in the box office on your first time, pretty good actually.
Yeah.
All right. So fun fact, did you know? So there's a flashback of Summer works at a ice cream shop. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the narrator's like, oh, like that ice cream shop got like 20% new customers that summer when Summer worked there. Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt could be seen standing in line.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
I missed it too. So, true or false? Is this movie a PG-13 or rated R?
Oh, damn. I didn't even notice.
Well, I guess that's not true or false. Is it PG-13 or is it rated R? There we go.
Huh. I'm trying to say, how many times did they say the F word?
Yeah, they did say it a couple times.
Did they?
Yeah.
They said it more than once?
I believe they said it twice, at least.
Rated R.
Rated R? Funny enough, it is PG-13.
No way!
Do you want to know... I don't know if you caught this. I caught this. Actually, in my notes, I didn't bring it up. Did you know Paul says... when he's talking about like, give me all the details about your new girl, you know, and he talks about like all the jobs, and he says hum job. Remember he says hum, and we point that out. Job. Do you know that's actually a way to dodge rated R?
Really?
Because hum job instead of blow job.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Paul says hum job instead of blow job to avoid a rated R.
See, the first time I heard that, I thought he said hump job, and I was like, what the fuck's a hump job?
Yeah, no, I was just like, what the fuck. So a little detail that people could have missed is the bottle of whiskey that he buys after him and Summer break up. It's Jack Daniels, but it's a different label. So like the bottle is shaped like Jack Daniels,
yeah,
but the label around it doesn't say Jack Daniels.
Yeah, I noticed that this time. I don't remember what it says because I was too entranced with the orange juice and amount of Twinkies he puts down.
Yeah, no, when he grabs like the big handful of Twinkies and he just kind of slammed it down, and the guy looks at him like, okay.
Is the bottle like Jack 5 or something?
I could look it up, or we could find it later. But yeah, no, it just says it's different.
Oh, okay.
Label.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is, but I do remember thinking, I was like, oh, they just put a weird label over this Jack Daniels.
The film's blue-centric color scheme was done to bring out Zooey Deschanel's eyes.
Oh, she does have really pretty eyes in this movie.
So, so the film writers estimate that 75% of the film actually happened to the director.
Oh, okay, so this was like his story all along.
Yeah, so like he didn't use like real names and stuff like that, or like the actual place, but he says that 75% of it actually happened to him. Which is like very on the nose, because that whole beginning where he's like, okay.
Mark Webb's kind of an ass.
Yeah, no. Making a whole self-centered movie about himself, basically. All right. I think that is enough for the trivia section.
All right. So I guess now let's answer the question, right?
Is it a good movie?
Yeah. Before we answer that, I feel like you already hinted at it, but I want to know, did you enjoy this movie? Did you like the movie?
I did. I think I liked it more this time than last time. That might be because I'm an adult now, or because of where I'm at in my current relationship. But yeah, I liked the movie.
Do you think it was a good movie?
I do think it was a good movie.
Okay. I don't think I liked it as much as you do.
Okay.
The first time I saw it, I really enjoyed it because I thought it was really funny. And it's just a nice change of pace from what I've been watching recently. After rewatching it a second time, I'm not going to lean towards I don't like the movie. I'm still going to lean towards I like it, but just barely scraping by I like the movie.
Okay. I think if I watched it 2 times in a row, my opinion might change. But I don't really do that with movies. So I don't know what my opinion would change. If I could rate it, I think I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. And if it wasn't as funny as it was, it probably would have gone lower. Because like even though I like the whole like I think they did the romantic part pretty well, it caught me off guard on how funny it was. And
it was pretty funny.
And I feel like when a movie surprises me like that, even if I've seen it before, it like really boosts it up this time watching it.
Yeah. So I would say it's a good movie, even though I didn't like it as much. I would still consider it a good movie. So I think it deserves a spot in the collection.
I think it does.
Cool. So let's find out what movie we're going to talk about next week. And we got this little spinner, a little wheel of mystery. So let's give this bad boy a spin.
So like what's on there? Is there just anything? Or...
No, so we got Beetlejuice, Scooby-Doo.
Wait, what's Scooby-Doo? Like the live action?
Yeah, the live action Scooby-Doo movie.
If we get that one, we're watching both.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We got Animal House.
Ooh.
Super 8 and Be Kind Rewind.
Okay.
So let's give this bad boy a spin.
Ooh.
Animal House.
Nice.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh my god. I'll wear my sweatshirt.
I bought it on sale for $5 and I was like, I know this is a classic and I know people love this movie. I've heard it doesn't age that well.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, I'm excited. This is another movie that I've never seen, but you have.
Yeah, I watched it in high school, and then when my like years in college, I watched it a couple of times.
Oh shit.
And I had that same view. I was like, ooh, some of these don't age well. Like you have to watch that movie with a certain crowd.
All right, well, let's see how rowdy this Animal House really is next week.
If you like what you heard, please give us a review and let us know your opinion on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. It'll be definitely appreciated.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Watch the movies with us. Follow along next week, and it'll just be a really fun time.
I think so.
Yeah, I hope you guys like what you're here. We're going to watch a bunch of new movies coming up. Maybe some we've seen, some we haven't seen. Maybe we've both seen the movies. I don't know. Every week's a surprise. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Peace out.